In this section, I want to change my topology a little bit. Of course, I have done this, just I'm going to explain it to you and show you BGP base path selection algorithm in my network. As you can see, I have removed the link between router 4 and router 3. I have added a link between router 3 and ISP1. Now you can see that I have two exit points to AS100. One is from my router 2, one is from my router 3. In my case, I have put router 1 and router 2 and router 3 under AS123. Router 1 is still route reflector, and router 2 and 3 are clients of router 1. And as you can see, router 4 and ISP1 are under AS100. There is a RIP configuration with minimal, networks configured on router 4 and ISP1. And now I want to show you the actual configuration here. I have made one little thing here that is not desirable, but just for simplicity, I want to have this. On router 2, I have advertised the default route to router 4. As I told you, this is not a good practice, but this is just for simplicity here. And on router 3, I have originated a default route and sent it to ISP1. So if I go to router 2 and go to routing BGP, I can show you that router 4 is receiving a default route. But as I told you, this is not a good practice. You should always create aggregates and send them to other ISPs so that you are quite specific about what you are advertising. Okay. Now, if you can see, if I go to router 1, I have router 2 and router 3 in AS123, and they are route reflector clients of 9. On router 3, I have router 4. Let's go to routing BGP. I have on router 3, I have ISP1 as a neighbor, and the remote address is 31.31.31.100. And on router 2, I have router 4 as a neighbor, and you can see that I have selected to have 192.168.24.104 as the remote address. It is in remote AS100. Router 4 and ISP1 are internal BGP neighbors. Okay, now the first thing that I want to show you is routing table on router 1. If I go to IP routes, I can see that I have BGP routes here from AS100, for example 100, 111, 0, and I am receiving this from two different places. One is 31.31.31.100, that is advertised via router 3. One is 192.168.24.104, that is router 4, that comes through router 2. But some of these routes, specifically those that end to router 4, are blue. This means they are inactive, and the reason is they are unreachable. It tells me that 192.168.24.104 is unreachable. If I go and select the ping, I can see that 192.168.24.104 is unreachable and tells me there is no route to the host. How can I correct this? If I go to router 2, the link between router 2 and router 4, I can see that under routing OSPF. I have not advertised this into OSPF, so my network does not know anything about this. So I can click on this plus sign, add 192.168.24.0/24 to area backbone, and everything in my network is in area backbone. If I go here, I can see that Ether 1 is added here. Okay, I can make it passive, of course, but there is no need for that. If I go to router 1, now I can see that by clicking on start, the ping is quite successful. So close this. Now some of these routes are changing, and they are going to be active, but I see some other thing here. I can see that it tells me now on router 1 31 is recursive via 10 10 13 103, and it is going to be inactive. It was active in previous section. What happened to that? If I double click on that, I can see the result. You can see that it tells me the scope is 40, but the target scope is 30. And I know that scope always should be less than target scope. I'm going to correct this in a very easy move in next section. Let's go to router 3 and check IP routing table on router 3. If I go to router 3 and open IP routes, I can see that it tells me routes that come from my network 31 are reachable, but routes that come from other networks are not reachable. Now check the routing table on router 2, and as you expect, you can see that routes that come from router 4 are preferred, but I do not see the other routes here. So let's go to router 1 and check the advertisement. If I go to routing BGP and select advertisement, I can see that I am selecting some routes to router 3, actually those that I have received from router 2, but I do not send any route to router 2. And why is this like this? Why I am not sending routes to router 2? Actually, this comes from IP routing table again. You can see that these are blue, inactive. And because they are inactive, I am not sending them to router 2. And the only thing that I am advertising is this that comes from 31 This is the only route that I am advertising, and this is because this is active. Okay, let's change this a little bit. As I told you, one of the problems is about target scope. The target scope is less than scope. If I double click on this, I can see that the target scope is 30. Where can I set this target scope? Let's go to router 3. Now I want to set this as a, try and as an experiment. Let's go to router 3 and set target scope for all routes that I receive from ISP1 and see if this is propagated to router 1. If I go to router 3, I can go to routing and create a filter. And you can see that I already have created this filter. The filter name is BGP. You can double click on this and go to matchers and create a filter in the name of BGP. Just type in the name. I don't have any specific route in mind, so I select to have all prefixes. I do not add anything here. And as you can see, if I go to action, I can select the action of accept, for example, and set the target scope to 255. This way, I am changing the target scope to the highest value possible. Click on apply, click on OK. Now you have a route filter here that you can use in BGP. Now if I go to routing BGP, I know that on router 3 ISP1 is my neighbor. I select ISP1 here, double click on that, and select to have an in filter of BGP in, and click on OK. Now if I go to IP routes on router 3 that I have set the route here, I can see that by double clicking on one of these routes that I received via BGP, I have a target scope of 255, and the scope is less than target scope, so it should work just fine. On router 3 it is working just fine. But as you saw in router 1, it is not. If I double click on that, I can see that the target scope is not propagated to router 1. So target scope seems to be a local value. Now let's do the same thing on router 1 and see if this is working here. If I select one of these active routes, I can see that here target scope and scope is again not working. So why is this like this? Although I see target scope is lower than scope, this route is active, but the other route is not active. So the problem should be somewhere else. It is not actually about target and scope and target scope. It has something to do with something else. I don't know why, but let's check again. Double click on one of these routes. You can see the gateway is this. It is recursive via router 3. It is type of unicast. The distance is 200. Nothing specific here. If I go to attribute, I can see that the origin is incomplete. Local preference and ace path is the same 100. If I double click on the other one, I can see the same items here. Click on attributes, same attributes on BGP. So they're the same. So I want to go to router 3 and remove the filter that I have created on that. If I go to routing BGP, select ISP1, remove this filter, click on OK, and go to routing filter and remove this. I don't need it anymore, so I don't want to have it on the route filter so that it will make me make mistakes. Now here, do I have a routing filter created? No, nothing here. So now that I have removed it, I just want to show you other factors than what we see here. I'm going to change some more attributes on BGP and show you that this is going to change with my changes.